All right, so let's go back to that manifesto launch that is supposed to be taking place today. And we just want to look at some snippets of it, what really Jubilee Party is saying that they will deliver in the next 5 years. Let's just take a look at our Super Bowl here. And the first thing, really importantly, job creation. So this manifesto this time round says that they will create lots of jobs for youth, an 18-month internship program for TVET and university graduates, greater partnerships with county governments. So that's what they're saying about job creation. That's what they'll do. Currently, of course, unemployment rate here in Kenya stands at about 40%. And therefore, Jubilee says that in the next 5 years, they will create more jobs for the Kenyan youth. Let's take a look at infrastructure. Expand connections to electricity in rural areas. That's one of the things that really the Jubilee government is priding itself in, that they have been able to make quite a number of connections over the last 4 years. And now it's saying that still they will be expanding connections to electricity in rural areas. Another thing is completion of the second phase of the SGR. That is the connection to Uganda. This is really maybe one of the biggest wins for the Jubilee government, the standard gauge railway, and they're saying that in the second term, they will be able to complete the second phase of the SGR that is connecting to Uganda. Let's continue on and take a look at another pointer there. Let's take a look at education. Looking at it, launch of free secondary education program from January 2018. Of course, that is something that has been quite a debate and a talking point in the campaign rallies. We've seen the president talk emphatically about this, that they will be able to launch free secondary education from January 2018. We'll be discussing that with a panel of guests later on in the show to just see how feasible is this. Also, continued focus on higher education. Like I mentioned, the TVETs and universities. We've seen the Ministry of Education really put focus on TVETs. Remember, of course, when the KCSE results were announced earlier in the year, more and more people were encouraged to join the TVETs if they were not able to join universities. So they're saying that they'll be expanding that. Something to do with housing. They're saying that they will plan to address urban housing, affordable, safe housing for people. That is going to really address the housing issues that we've had here in the country for years. Meanwhile, looking at something else that is also quite important is health. They're saying that they will ensure continued and comprehensive support for maternity and maternal health care. Remember, there's the free maternity. We'll be talking also about how successful that has been so far. Also, rollout of free medical cover for citizens above 70 years. That's the senior citizens. That's what they're saying they will do for health. Looking at food security, something that really is affecting quite a number of Kenyans right now, the high cost of living, increase arable acreage through irrigation. Remember, there have been quite a number of questions that have been raised about the Galana Kulalu project. And so they're saying that they will increase arable acreage through irrigation. Also, completion of projects to secure adequate water resources for domestic and agricultural use. All right, moving on swiftly, governance and public service, continued progress on making government services more accessible to all Kenyans, continued progress on making the government more accountable to Kenyans. And accountability has also been one of the things that has dogged this administration. Remember, they've been dealing with quite a number of corruption scandals. It has not been outlined in what we've been able to see in the manifesto, but hopefully they will be addressing that later on today as they launch that manifesto. But really, corruption being a very serious issue that has seen the country lose quite a number of billions of shillings in certain projects. We'll be talking also about that later on. But for now, though, our reporter Chris Sairu has covered the politics of this nation, including the Jubilee administration, right from the 2013 elections, and is conversant with the achievements of the Jubilee administration. We now want to just link up with him. He's joining me from our City Centre studio to talk to us more about this. Chris, thank you very much for joining us here on the show. So we've seen a snippet of really what we should be expecting later on today. But are we likely to see more and more things that were not achieved in the last 4 years, sort of like creeping back in the manifesto today?
Well, very good morning to you, Betty, and viewers. Indeed, we expect that the Jubilee team will be taking a break today from the campaigns. Remember that they have been campaigning in the upper eastern part, that is in Meru. They just left Meru, and on yesterday we saw the president was in Vihiga. And today at 5:30, that's the time that they've set to launch their manifesto at around 5:30. That's at Kasarani Safaricom Stadium. And as you correctly put it, you've outlined several aspects or several issues that they have promised Kenyans. But from 2013, they had a big list of promises. But one of the major flagship projects that the Jubilee has been actually boasting about is the SGR project. And we saw that in a month ago, we saw the president and his deputy launch that train, and that's the big milestone project. And they've of course promised that they will continue to ensure that that project continues up to Uganda. But that's something that we'll also be waiting to see. But in 2013, they also promised free laptops. But what we've seen is that only last year, that's when a number of those laptops were delivered to various schools. But that project has not really taken off as it was expected. And of course, they have been facing several challenges, of course, in their leadership. As you correctly put it, corruption has one of the issues that has really bedeviled this Jubilee government. And we saw the president actually saying that for him, he has reached a point of trying to see what can he really do, and trying to pass the buck to other heads of institutions like the DPP, the EACC. We have seen different, even coming to court saying that they have been trying to be like a stumbling blocker to fighting corruption. And this evening we'll expect them to tell us how they intended to ensure that corruption is a thing of the past in the Jubilee government. And there are various issues in terms of infrastructure. We've seen that they claim that they have made sure that they've tarmacked most of the roads, although they have been that challenge of Kenyans not really knowing which is this road that is for the national government, and of course those others that are for the county governments. And we've seen that both county and national governments passing the buck in terms of which road that they are supposed to ensure that is tarmacked. And this evening, lots of expectations, of course, from Kenyans. And let's wait and see how they really intend to ensure that if at all there are those promises that they had already promised, for instance, the job creation. We know that there are so many people out here who have graduated, but they are yet to get those opportunities to get jobs. And of course, the food security, as you correctly put there, we know that there is a challenge of unga. There's that shortage of unga, the high cost of living. Every Kenyan is complaining that there is a high cost of living. And we've seen that on the other side of the opposition, they've been taking advantage of hitting at the Jubilee government, saying that if at all they're in power, they'll ensure that food security is something that they will be noting, and of course ensuring that it's catered for, Betty.
Let's talk about the campaigns. I mean, we've seen the president and top Jubilee officials really crisscross the country for the last couple of weeks, you know, just going out there to campaign. So what really has been their message in connection to the manifesto and what they're promising to do for Kenyans in the next 5 years? What has been the strongest points that they're bringing out in the campaign messaging?
One of the strongest points that the Jubilee administration, while they are campaigning out there, they've been rallying in for peace and reconciliation. Remember that in 2013 they came on a backdrop of trying to unite Kenyans from different tribes, from different communities, so that they can be reconciliated. And that is the rallying point that they've been saying, that even if elections will be here, they will go, but Kenyans should remain united. And that has been their rallying call. Apart from the other projects or other promises that they've been saying in terms of their manifesto, the rallying call for them has been that peace, peace, and peace, Betty.
All right, so let's talk also about the opposition, and they have been taking quite a number of jabs at Jubilee for the things that they have not been able to achieve. How closely will the opposition be looking at the manifesto launch today?
Of course, we expect that the opposition, that is, we know that the presidential flag bearer is Raila Odinga. We expect they will be launching their manifesto this week. Remember that they had already planned to launch it last week, but they had to call it off so that they can give the Muslims fraternity time at least they can be part of that manifesto. And we know that today is a holiday. Really, it's Eid al-Fitr. And that's the time that they had been given. But we know that the opposition will be launching this week. We know that one of the promises that they've been saying is that after the elections, that is in September, if at all they take power, they will ensure that there is free secondary education, and those who will be joining, or those who are in secondary schools from September, won't be paying any cent. Free secondary education will be free. And that is how one of their rallying calls. Of course, we know that they have been hitting at the Jubilee regime because of corruption. And we've seen that both the principles, that is the 5 principles in the opposition, have been saying that if they take over power, they'll ensure that corruption is something of the past, and they'll ensure that those who have been found guilty of being corrupt, they'll ensure that they refund that money to the public, and that's something that will be a milestone for them. And of course, we know that in terms of the projects that they have tried to say that they will be initiating when they take over power. That's food security, of course, security for all Kenyans, and of course, trying to see that all Kenyans are united, Betty.
Thank you very much, Chris Thairu, there reporting and joining us live from our City Centre studio. He has been covering the Jubilee campaign and, of course, what has been happening over the last couple of years. And as we await to see what the manifesto will be looking at, he's been updating us on the wins and the sort of failures for the Jubilee government so far.